Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. I feel like now that it's November, most of the crochet world is full on in Christmas mode, and as excited as I am about all things Christmas and sharing some of the ideas that I have coming up for Christmas, I didn't want to skip over Thanksgiving and this adorable little turkey. Now I know that Thanksgiving in November and turkeys is kind of mainly an American thing, but that's okay because you can easily just change the colors of this pattern and use the exact same pattern to make the cutest little peacock like I have here. His feathers go down in the back, kind of like they do with their tail feathers. So you can do either one, whether you want to make a turkey for Thanksgiving or just a cute little peacock. This pattern is no-sew and beginner friendly, so it works up super quick. The tail feathers here are crocheted in as you go. The wings and the feet are done with surface crochet, and he really is just a fast and pretty simple, fun little project that you can do easily in under an hour. I'm going to be making the turkey version today, but as I said, if you want to make a peacock or really any other color chunky little bird, you can just change the colors and make him however you want. The options are endless. This is a pretty simple and basic, straightforward crochet tutorial, so you don't need a lot of extra supplies, just kind of your basics. Obviously, you're going to need yarn. The brown, yellow, and red are all Premier Parfait plush, and this orange is actually Bernat Blanket yarn because I didn't have any of the right color in the plush, but they're similar sizes, so they work well together. You've got your yarn. I am going to be using a 6mm crochet hook, but that will vary depending on your crochet tension and what type of yarn you're using. I'm using these sinker eyes, and these are 18mm, but again, that will vary depending on what size you want, what size yarn you're using. If you're using bigger yarn, you might want bigger eyes. These ones are quite a bit smaller, just the plain black one on the smaller turkey, so that's up to you. Also, a stitch marker is helpful. You're going to need a yarn needle and some scissors, and that is all we need to make this cute little turkey. We're going to start with these tail feathers on the back, so we're going to start with the brown here in the middle. I'm going to take my brown and I will start with a magic ring, and I am going to crochet only 4 single crochets into that magic ring. And once I get those 4 done, I'm going to go ahead and tighten that up. And then instead of continuing in the round like you do a lot of times when you're making plush animals, I'm actually going to chain 1 and turn. So I'm going to turn and go back this way. And on my second round, I'm going to increase in each stitch. So there will be, there were 4 stitches in the first round, so there will be a total of 8 in this second round. This is my last stitch here, and as I do the second single crochet, that's the increase, instead of finishing it here, I'm going to switch to my orange yarn to finish this. So I'm going to pull up an orange piece of yarn through that last loop to finish that second single crochet. And I'll leave just a little bit of a tail. We will be tying these later, so just long enough to tie there. And I'm going to chain 1 and again turn. Now for this round, round 3, I'm going to do a pattern of half double crochet and then a half double crochet increase, and repeat that all the way across. So there's my first half double crochet. Now I'm going to do a half double crochet increase and continue that pattern across. Okay, I'm doing the second half double crochet of this last increase, and again I'm going to stop before pulling that final thread through, final piece of yarn through, and again I'm going to switch. I'm going to grab my yellow and I will pull the yellow through to finish that last half double crochet, leaving just a little bit of a tail that I can tie off later. And then I will chain one and turn again. Now on this round, we are going to do 2 single crochets and then an increase. Here's my increase. And we will repeat that pattern all the way around here. I am on the second single crochet of this last increase, and again going to change colors and not finish that last one with yellow, but I will grab my red and pull the red through to finish that second single crochet of the increase. And then I'm going to chain one and turn. And this is the last round of the tail feathers, and to do this round we're going to start with a half double crochet. And then in the same stitch there, we're going to do a double crochet. Then moving to the next stitch, we will do another double crochet. And then in that same stitch as the double crochet, we're going to do a slip stitch. And kind of pull that one tight there to make sure that it's not sticking out funny. And that kind of makes this little scalloped shape. And we're going to repeat that pattern all the way across here. So we'll have a total of 8 of these little scallops. So again, I'll start here with a half double crochet. In the same stitch, I'm going to double crochet. In the next stitch, I'll do another double crochet. And then in that same stitch, a slip stitch. And make sure that one's pulled up snug. Now continue that all the way across. I just finished my last slip stitch here of the tail feathers, and as you can see I've got 8 of these scallops going across here, and I am going to just grab my scissors and cut off the red here with just a couple inches and finish off. Pull that tight, and then we can actually cut all of these off. We have all of these strings hanging off here. We can cut them all off with just a couple inches to tie off once we crochet them onto the turkey. And there are the tail feathers. And when you're putting them on, you're going to want this part that is facing up and towards you as you're doing this last row. That's the front, so that will be facing towards the front of the turkey. It looks a little bit different, not quite as nice on the back, so we want to make sure you get the front in the right spot when you're doing that. We're next going to start working on the body of the turkey, but before we start, you're going to want to take your brown yarn and cut a piece of yarn that's maybe 18 inches to 2 feet for adding on this little tuft of hair after we get a few rounds done. You don't really need that much When you're done, you end up cutting some off, but it's a lot easier to do it if you start out with a little bit longer piece. So cut that piece first and set it aside, and then grab your brown yarn, and we'll again start with the magic ring. And this time we're going to put 8 single crochets in our magic ring. Pull that tight, and for round 2 we will just increase around. 8 increases will end with a total of 16 stitches. I will put my stitch marker there in my first stitch. Round 3 now, we will just continue to increase this circle, and we will do a pattern of a single crochet and then an increase, and repeat that all the way around. We will end this round with 24 stitches. Now that we are done with the first 3 rounds, we're going to stop here for a minute to add the little tuft of hair that goes at the top. So you can pull that loop out just a little bit so that it doesn't come undone. And grab your piece of yarn that you cut off to start with and a yarn needle. And there are a lot of different ways to do these little tufts on the top, and sometimes you can just add them on right after, but I think this is a pretty easy, simple way, and it ends up looking the way I envisioned, so it works well here. So what I like to do is you go to the wrong side where you've got your tail end sticking out, and I like to just kind of pull this over to the side, maybe put it through your stitch marker just to keep it out of the way and make sure you know which end is which as you're doing this. And then you take your yarn, your piece that you cut off before starting, with the yarn needle and go right through the center of that magic ring from the inside up here to the right side, and pull it till you've got just a little bit of a tail. And then take something that's about as big around as you want your these little loops to be here. So obviously the bigger the turkey, the bigger the loop. So if you're doing a smaller turkey, you'll want something smaller, but I'm just going to use the thick part of my crochet hook here because I think that's a good size. And I'm just going to put my crochet hook there, and then I'm going to go around it and back down through that middle hole. Pull it snug, and then I'm going to do it again. I'm going to go back up through the very same hole, and I kind of put my finger here to make sure that I don't pull it all the way through, because it will just pull through since it's going through the same hole. But you leave a loop there and go around whatever you've got here again, down through the same hole, and repeat that one more time. You can go over your finger, or if you want to put another pencil or something else there rather than your finger on that side, you can have something on both sides. Just keep those loops, don't pull them all the way through. Around what you've got here on top for the loops. Okay, so now I have 3 loops on top here going around that crochet hook, and I'm going to go over here, and I have 2 loops. I've got this tail end from where I started, the tail end from where I ended, and then I've got this end that I pulled aside from my magic ring. I'm going to take this one from my magic ring, and I am going to go through those 2 loops like that, so that now there's yarn through those 2 loops, and if I pull them tight, they're not going to pull through because the yarn is going to hold it. So I can pull one end and pull it tight, and then pull on the other end to pull the second one tight, like that. I've still got my loops here, and make sure they're tight like you want them. And then you just need to tie ends together so that it doesn't come undone. And you can really tie whichever ones you want. You can start with 2 like that, and then go and tie the other 2 here. So they're all nice and secure and aren't going to go anywhere. And then pull this out, and you've got 3 perfect little loops on top right there. So now we're ready to continue on. If these strings on the bottom are too long that they're going to get in the way and bother you, you can go ahead and cut those off so that they're not getting in the way as you continue to crochet. Okay, so we're ready to move on again. We are on round 4 on the body, and for both round 4 and round 5, we are just going to single crochet around 24 stitches in each round. Now that I've finished round 5, we are ready to move on to round 6. And to do round 6, we're going to start with a pattern of a single crochet first. Put my stitch marker back in, and then we're going to increase. And we will repeat that pattern 4 times. So that was the first one. Here is another single crochet. Oops. And my second increase. Single crochet and a third increase, and a single crochet and a fourth increase. After we do that 4 times, we will just single crochet the rest of the way around. We should have 16 more single crochets, and we will end this round with 28 stitches. We are ready to do round 7, which is where we start attaching this tail feathers. Before we get to those, we're going to start with 2 single crochets. I'll do my first one and put my stitch marker back in. Here's the second one. Okay, now we're going to grab the tail feathers to start putting them on. And as I mentioned before, make sure you have this right side, the right side of the last round facing forward. And what we're going to do is you're going to put that right next to the body here, like that, with the right side facing forward towards the body, and then turn the whole thing upside down. And you're going to want to make sure that all of your strings here, all of your yarn ends, are coming back this way. You don't want them to go down in between here, because we're going to want them to go inside the body as we crochet it on. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go through our yellow row right here. We'll do the red one later, so you can just move this red string out of the way, kind of to the right there, and you're going to put your hook right through the end of this yellow round, like this, and then you're going to go through the next single crochet on the body and just complete a single crochet. Make sure that this part here is still pulled tight so there aren't gaps there. So through the yellow and through the body, complete a single crochet. Okay, now I'm going to take my yellow yarn and bring it over here so that it's inside the body like that. And I'm going to do the same thing but with orange. I'll go through the end of the orange row, and then I'll go through my next single crochet in the body and complete a single crochet. Then I'm going to take my orange yarn, bring it from the back here to over inside the body, and I'm going to do the same thing with the brown. Now the brown is a lot wider here. I'm going to do a total of 4 single crochets across this brown section here, and you've got 2 brown ends that you will bring inside the body when you get to them, so that you're kind of crocheting over them and they'll be inside when you're done. So here's my first one. Through the body, complete a single crochet, and then I'm going to do another one right next to it, complete a single crochet, and that's about when I want to take the first brown end and put it inside. Okay, now I have 2 more single crochets on the body, or I'm sorry, on the orange on the brown part here. Next one in the body. And there are a lot of little strings here, and sometimes it can get kind of confusing, so just take it slow. Okay, that's the 3rd one through the brown part, so I've got 1 more through the brown part right here, through the body, and complete a single crochet. Okay, I'm on to the orange, and this orange is right at the beginning here, so I'm going to put that inside first, go through the orange row, through the next single crochet, and complete that single crochet. Put the yellow one inside, then go through the yellow, next single crochet on the body, and complete a single crochet. Like I said, we're going to get to the red on the next round, so you can just leave that end just loose right there and keep going. And that was the hardest part of this whole pattern. So if you made it through that, you can give yourself a pat on the back. You've done the hardest part. Okay, now after we've done that, we did the 2 single crochets at the beginning, then we did 8 single crochets here through the tail feathers, and we are just going to single crochet the rest of the way around. There should be 18 stitches left, and we will again have 28 stitches at the end of this round. Moving on to round 8, we are going to start. I'm going to do 1 single crochet here, put my stitch marker back in, and then this is where we're going to attach the red part. In our next stitch, we're just going to go through the end of this red part right here and go into the next single crochet on the body, just right there, and complete a single crochet. And then you can either move the red one inside here or wait till after the next one. You're just going to single crochet in the next stitch, put the red yarn inside right there. So we did the one in the red, and then we have 8 single crochets before we get to the next red. So I've already done 1, that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And you can put the red yarn inside here, and you're going to go through the bottom of that red section right there with your hook and through the next single crochet right there. Complete the single crochet. And see, your tail feathers are just attached really nice there right onto the body. And to finish this round, again, we're just going to single crochet the rest of the way around. You should have 17 left after going through that red one, and we will again have 28 stitches in this round. Okay, once I've finished round 8, I'm going to stop for just a minute, and I'm going to come back here. If you want to turn this inside out, it can help a little bit. You've got all of these loose ends right here that you brought inside as you were crocheting, and you don't want those to work their way out at all. So I just go ahead and tie them in knots. There's an even number across, so I just take the first 2, tie them together, and then do that all the way across. Take the next 2, tie them together. And this may be an unnecessary step. It's not super likely that they're going to come out, but I like to just make sure things are nice and secure and no chance of coming undone or ends popping out. Okay, and we are ready to move on to round 9. For round 9, we're just going to do 2 single crochets and a decrease and repeat that pattern around. We will do it a total of 7 times and have a total of 21 stitches when we finish this round. After round 9, I'm going to stop and work on the face for a minute here. And the first thing that we need to do is to make a beak. So I'm going to grab my orange yarn. And you can use the same size hook for this, but I actually like to go down to a pretty small hook for this size of yarn. It's not a hook size you would normally use with this big of yarn, but I like the beak to kind of be tight. It makes it a little bit more pointed here if you do it really tight. So if you don't want to use a smaller hook, you can totally use the same hook and just make sure that you pull your loops a little bit tighter than you might normally. So I start with a slip knot on my hook there. And this is very simple. We're just going to chain 2, and then we're going to go into the back bump of the first chain. Make sure that last that second chain especially is pulled tight. That will help the beak look kind of pointed. So go into the back bump of that first chain and slip stitch. And that's pretty much it. and cut it off with a couple inches, and then pull your yarn through to finish off. Very quick and easy little beak. So that's your beak there. And I like to grab my eyes and kind of place them where I want them, but not secure them before I put the beak on. So for the eyes, we're going to put them on between rows 4 and 5. So if you count down 1, 2, 3, 4, that's row 4 right there. So just look at where the center of your turkey is. Place the eyes on either side of what looks like center. And there's about 2 visible stitches between the eyes here on mine, but that really will vary depending on how big your eyes are. So if you have smaller eyes, there will be a little bit more space. So look at it from the top, make sure that it's kind of centered on that center line with the back feathers. And if where you want your eyes, then I'm going to take my beak, and on between rows 5 and 6 right here, I'm going to look at these 2 holes here just right next to the eye. I'm going to go and put my hook from the inside out here and grab one end of the beak and pull it through, and then I'll go up to this other hole there, grab the other end of the beak and pull it through. And you can look at it again, make sure it looks centered and that's like you want it. And if it is, then you can go ahead and tie those 2 ends together inside. I know some people will consider this sewing, but I don't really consider that sewing, so that's why I say this is a no-sew pattern. If you want to embroider the wattle on right here, now is a good time to do that also. So you just grab some red yarn, and you really don't need a very long piece. But I will just start, I'm going to come up from the outside, from the inside out, right in the middle above my beak here. Leave a little bit of a tail there, and then I just kind of bring it down and pick a spot down here below. And you can just do 1 string of yarn if you want. If you want it a little bit thicker, you can come back up to that same spot and come down again, just to make it a little thicker. Again, that will depend on how big your turkey is and how thick your yarn is, depending on how wide you want that to be. So once you get it like you want it, then you can turn it inside out and tie those 2 ends together as well. And you can kind of play with it and adjust it a little bit to look just like you want there. And once you have it like you want, then you can go ahead and secure your eyes right there, and then we will move on to the next round. Now that my eyes are secure with the backs on them, I am ready to move on to round 10. This round will be a pattern of single crochet and a decrease repeated 7 times. We'll end this round with 14 stitches. Okay, we only have 1 round left, but before we finish that round, then we need to stuff our little turkey. And if you want him to sit up, to sit well like this, rather than tipping over, you want to make sure that you don't overstuff him. You don't want him too chunky. Just kind of squishy, so that you can still smash the bottom, make the bottom just a little bit flat so that he will sit well. And once you have the stuffing in, we just have one round left, and it is just decreasing all the way around. 7 decreases. Now that I have finished that last round, I'm just going to cut off, leave a little bit of a tail here for finishing it off, and pull it through. And I'm going to do what is called an ultimate finish, where I will take my yarn needle, thread that on there, and I'm going to go up from the outside in on the front loop only of each stitch around, like this. So front loop only, and I have 7 stitches in this round. And once you go through each stitch, you're just going to cinch that up tight. And then just to help make sure that it's flat on the bottom and that he sits well, I like to go up through the bottom, and I just come up somewhere towards the back, kind of upper back here. And I will pull that up, and then I pull it just a little bit to pull that in and help it be flat on the bottom there. And then I will tie my knot here. You don't want to pull it so tight that when you tie this knot, it's going to be cinching it in and making an indent up here on the top. Just a little bit, because that helps him sit. Helps him sit flat. And if you want, you can go through to another spot and make another knot. I've mentioned this before. I'm always paranoid about things coming undone, so I probably do more knots than I need to. Pull that tight. And then I'm just going to pull it back down through here and cut it off there. Get rid of all this extra fuzz. You can kind of smash him a little bit to give him the shape you want. I like him to have that flat bottom part so that he will sit there. And now we're ready to add his cute little wings and feet. I'm going to start with the wings. And to do the wings, we are going to go down to between rounds 6 and 7, which is right here. If you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So between 6 and 7, and we want to go right in front of this wing here. I'm going to go like this, put my hook in this stitch that are like 2 before the wing, that's 2 before, and then go under and come out that one right in front of the wing, right there. I'm going to grab my brown yarn and pull up a loop right there. Leave just a little bit of a tail for tying a knot when we're done. I'm going to chain 1, and then I'm going to kind of turn my turkey around this way. And to do surface crochet, I'm going to go back in that same hole that I started, but this time I'm going this way. And I'm just going to go up, go under that stitch and up through the next hole and complete a single crochet just like normal. So there's 1, I'm going to do 2 more. 2. And 3. So I did 3 single crochets there. Now I'm going to turn, and I'm not going to do a chain 1 like you often do when you're doing rows and turning. I'm going to turn without that chain 1, and I'm going to go back and single crochet into that first stitch. No chain 1, and then I have 2 more single crochets here, and I'm going to do it's a type of decrease, but it's not the invisible decrease like you usually do in amigurumi. It's going to be a single crochet 2 together. So I'm going to go through that first single crochet, pull up a loop, so I've got 2, go through the second one, that second single crochet there, pull up a loop. Now I have 3 on there, and I will yarn over and go through all 3. Okay, and I'm going to again turn without making a turning chain, no chain at the end, and I'm just going to do 1 single crochet 2 together. So I go through that first single crochet, pull up a loop, go through the second one. The second one can kind of be a little bit tricky to get into sometimes because we didn't do that turning chain. Okay, got that through. Now I'm pulling up a second loop, so I've got 3 on there, and I pull through all 3 of them. And that's pretty much the whole wing. I'm going to cut off, I'll leave a little bit longer tail than I started with, and I'll pull that through the last loop to finish it off. Make sure that's pulled tight. And then what I'm going to do is I will take my yarn needle and thread it on here. And I am just going to kind of thread down through the middle of the wing here, like this. Make sure it's kind of hidden all the way down. And I'm actually going to come out just like a row below where my wing is crocheted on. Just find a hole there. I'm going to come out a row below and pull that down in. You don't want to pull it so tight that it cinches the wing up tight, but pull that down in there. And then I insert my hook in that same hole that I came out of and come up where this other end is, so I can pull that through to the same hole and tie those 2 together. And because they're coming out the same hole here, as you tie that knot, it kind of pulls it down inside like that. So I tie that, I'll cut those a little bit shorter, and then I'm just going to pull them through to the inside to hide them. And that is the first wing of our turkey. Now we just need to make one on the other side, and we're going to do it pretty much exactly the same way. So if you remember, we were doing this between rows 6 and 7. So you're going to want it on the same row, go across here. And because it's in a spiral, this one will be a little bit higher above the wing, but that's okay. You still do the same thing. You're going to go in a little bit in front of the wing, come up so you're right in front of the wing, and grab your yarn and pull it through, chain 1, and we're just going to do the same thing that we did before. I'm going to surface crochet 3 single crochets, 1, 2, 3. Oops, it slipped out there. Turn without chaining, do 1 single crochet, and then single crochet 2 together. So go in the next stitch, pull up a loop, next stitch, pull up a loop, then pull through all 3. Again, we'll turn without chaining and do single crochet 2 together, pull up a loop. Hopefully I can get in this one easier than the first one. Yep, there we go. Pull up a loop and then pull through all 3. Cut it off, leaving a little bit of a tail. And pull that through to finish it off. And we're going to do the same thing on this wing that we did on the other one. We will thread it down through here and tie it off there. Now that our wings are done, all we have left is to add the feet, and we will also add those with surface crochet like we did the wings. And we're going to start down here below the eyes between rows 8 and 9. So if you remember, the wings were between rows 6 and 7. So this is row 8 and this is row 9. So I'm going to come over here a little bit, probably to the left side of this eye, the stitch straight down from there, and insert my hook like that under a stitch and pull up an orange loop. I'm going to chain 1, and then I'm going to do just 2 half double crochets in the next 2 stitches. So I will go down in that same hole that I started in. Well, first I need to wrap my yarn around, sorry, yarn over, go down through that same hole that I started in and under a stitch, pull up a loop, do a half double crochet, and then do that again, yarn over, go under the next stitch, pull up a loop and half double crochet. And then I'm going to cut this off and just pull that end through that last loop like that. And I'm going to do a similar thing to how I finished these off. I'm going to pick a stitch just below the foot here, and I'll insert my hook there, and then I'm going to come up right where I ended here on the foot, and I'm going to pull this side down through there, and then I'll come back over, insert in that same hole, come up where this side is, and pull that one through there, and tie those together. And because I came up through the same hole, as I pull them tight, it kind of pulls the knot down inside there. And after I've got my knot, I can insert my hook in here and pull these two ends down inside to hide them. Just like that. And there's one foot. And we're ready to do the other one. So this time I'm going to start coming down on the right side of this eye, over on this side. Same row here. I think I'm going to start right straight down from there. Start right there. Pull my orange up here. Chain one. And then turn and go this direction. Start by yarning over. Go under that next stitch, make a half double crochet, do that one more time. I will cut this off and pull through that loop to finish it off. Okay, now I'm going to find a stitch just below my foot here, just in the round below, come up where it ended and pull that piece through. And go back down in that same hole to this side and pull that end through and tie those together. And I just need to pull these ends down inside. And there you go. There is your adorable little Thanksgiving turkey. It'll be the perfect centerpiece at your Thanksgiving dinner this year. Thank you so much for joining me today. I would love to see how your turkeys turned out. So if you post on social media, don't forget to tag me at The Stitch Sue, and make sure you like and subscribe so that you don't miss out on my upcoming Christmas patterns. Have a nice day.